Welcome to Successfully's Clues podcast, coming live from Hackers 2024. I'm going to take that one and run with it. This is a great crowd. Well, today up here with us, we have some guys who are going to tell us about how they did it. So to my far right, got Nick Padron. Nick, welcome. Josh Bird in the middle, and then Thomas Andrews over here closest to me. So guys, we're going to go through and talk about your journey, stuff you went through, stuff you learned, and we're going to dig into the meat of it. But for our listeners, why don't you introduce yourself, say your name so they know your voice. Tell us about your shop, how many shops, employees, revenue, stuff like that, so we get a sense of what they're doing, all right? Josh, you want to kick it off?
Name's Josh Bird. We're just east of Kansas City on the Missouri side. We have two locations about 15 miles apart. One of them's in a town of 8,000. The other one's in a bigger city. Both shops will do 2.5 million. So we'll be 4.5, 5 million this year. We've been in Shop Fix since 2020.
Awesome. Thomas?
My name's Thomas Andrews. We've got one shop in North Carolina. We joined Shop Fix in June of 2021, so just over 3 years. And this year we should be north of 8 million out of that shop. It is a 15-bay shop, and we specialize in light-duty diesel, but also do all makes and models.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Nick Padron from Topeka, Kansas, just west of Kansas City. One shop, 8-bay. This year we'll do about 2 million. And I've been in Shop Fix since 2019.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that, guys. Okay, so we're going to stick with Nick here for a second. We're going to start there next. So how did you get in auto repair? Why auto repair?
Well, long story short, I had started my automotive career in California building race cars. Moved to Kansas to be with my then fiance. When I moved there, could not find a job at any shop, any dealer. So I took a job at a bank. That obviously is not for me. So that did not work out, and ended up opening our shop in 2014. And here we are.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Josh, what about you? How'd you get into it?
I started straight out of high school, went to GM ASEP program. My dad was a home builder entrepreneur. I wanted absolutely no part of entrepreneurship growing up through that. Became a technician, worked for that dealer group, then into management for 16, 17 years. Then 2018, walked away, started our shop, our first shop out of a pole barn behind the house. So.
Got it.
So we got into ours as more of a hobby. Started as a truck club, and actually started out by just selling decals and t-shirts and hoodies and hats.
Like an off-road truck club or something?
Just like an off-road truck club. We would meet at like Bojangles and parking lots and Smithfield's Chicken and
You the
Barbecue.
guy stacking your tires on top of it?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Checking the flex.
Yep. And so it was a passion-fueled business model, essentially. But we didn't end up going into that until several years later. My business partner, Mike, he was the technician mind, and then I had the passion for the customization of automotive. I just didn't have the means to do it. And so we ended up, he had a small shop on his property. And so we leveraged that and just took it over. He actually built it for personal use, but we took it over, and then we were both working full-time jobs and doing it on the side for several years. And then in 2019, we built our 8-bay shop, and then we've since added an additional 7 bays since 2019. And so it was more of a passion hobby turned into business as we progressed.
Yeah. Now, what you are leaving out, because I know when we talked earlier, and also Josh, both of you guys started out in a barn, correct?
Correct.
Horse barn, gravel road, customers getting lost.
Yes, like customers calling, asking, am I going to get shot coming down this driveway?
So, great plan for having customers to get to the location.
Yeah.
Is a shotgun going to be involved? Shotgun, yeah. And Josh, you had to tell us about yours.
So ours, 1,500-foot pole barn, 50 feet from the front door of the house. Commute was great, but it only had 10-foot ceilings and one lift. So we were outside of town on a gravel road.
Nice. Which is, I know we talked about this with Aaron starting out in a barn, and I'm curious, has anybody else started in a barn? Is this the thing? Okay, we got 2. Gravel driveway, 1 up. Gravel driveway. Awesome. No barn. Yeah. You got to do what you got to do. So this guy started in just a tarp. So yeah, that's interesting. I know we talked about who had the worst barn or whatever, but we won't go into all that. So let's go back to Nick here for a second. So Nick, tell us about when you first got into it, what you were doing. And I think you even had a story about trying to open on a Saturday, and there were some challenges there. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So, opened up in 2014. I thought the thing to do would be to go to the chamber, right? Get them involved, do a grand opening. Everything was going great until I told them, well, I want to open on a Saturday because I want my family from California to come out and participate for the grand opening. They said, well, we don't work on Saturdays. And I'm thinking, this is small business. What do you mean? Like that we don't have a set day and time for anything, right? So that was a hard no from them. So it was a hard no for me to move forward with them. But, because of my willingness to not just have a random grand opening, I had pursued the governor of Kansas at the time, and through many emails and phone calls, he agreed to come out, and he was there for the ribbon cutting, and then after that, was a customer to this day. So
wow,
cool story. Yeah,
that's good. Get the governor on board.
Yeah.
That helps to have those in your pocket. All right. So as you guys got started, talk to me about how it went. What was going on when you got it started, and what was going wrong that drove you to ShopFix? Go ahead.
Sure, I'll go first. Got started. I had very little knowledge about managing a business, let alone an automotive repair business. I knew how to fix a car. It was a single man operation. I was doing it all, answering the phones, ordering the parts, fixing the cars, all that. Fast forward to 2019. Actually, it was 28. I was at the verge of bankruptcy. I had no money. One of those stories where I pulled out my credit card, and I think back in the day it was not called Lite, but it was the Lite version now of ShopFix. And I got the videos, got a free ticket to Shop Hackers, and within those 3 months of those two events, the shop changed overnight. Became a member in April of that year, and completely transformed our shop. So,
really? What was the biggest thing you learned? I mean, what was going so wrong that drove you to paint pulling out that credit card?
Well, failure. I was staring it in the face, and was not willing to die, was not willing to give up. And Aaron's message that night really resonated with me, and it was an act of faith. And I mean, here we are now. So
yeah.
The story goes on even further. Just 2019. So we joined in April. I got with Coach Michael Rosenberger,
the Berg,
which is arguably the greatest coach ever. And working with him and implementing ShopFix systems, it was literally, we went from like 30K a night, 30K a month to 80, 85, like literally overnight. In August of that year, I was actually able to close on a commercial building. So all of these things happened so quickly just by getting the coaching, and so
cool. All right.
So my story is maybe a little bit different. I work for a dealer group, 80, 100-hour weeks. I walked away from a pretty decent job to work on cars in my backyard. And we were solvent. But those of you that are in here or have been there, operating by yourself has its challenges. So April of 19, I used to do 2 hackers. I hired my first employee. He started. We signed up with Techmetric, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to this thing in Nashville. It's called Hackers. I can't afford to pay you. You can go home or stay here and figure it out. He chose to stay there and figure it out. He's still with us today. I did not join. We were doing 25, 30,000 a month. August of 20, I came back to Hackers, and that's when I joined. I knew where we were going. The biggest thing for me was sitting in the room, and I don't care if it's Aaron or Berg or Thomas or Nick, we're all just men and women. None of us are any better than anyone else. So I started to see opportunity and possibility for what I could do for myself and my family. So we went ahead and joined. We ended up moving out of that pole barn in January of 21, and off to the races we've been.
Wow. What about you, Thomas?
So mine ultimately all started with Mike. He was the technician, the phone answerer, everything. And then I came in and helped with the phone side of the things. And I remember we started this in 2012, just doing, events on the weekends and stuff like that. And in 2014, when he had built that personal barn, he would start working obviously at night and on the weekends because full-time job. I had a full-time job. And so I would remember leaving my full-time job, picking up dinner, bringing it out to the barn to feed him. And then we would just sit out there and, hang out and work on vehicles all night. And then on the weekends. And then in 2016, was a pretty pivotal moment in our lives, was when Mike went full-time. And so it's still kind of scary because it was just Mike in a shop. And, so from a safety perspective, that was always bothersome. But I would, phone calls would come into me and then I would dispatch them to Mike and from a remote location because I had a full-time IT job. And so we did that for 2 years and stayed pretty blown out. Obviously, we hired a technician pretty quickly and then hired a third technician as well. And then in 2018, I came on full-time. And then that's when we were building our current facility that we're in, that we moved into 2019.
Okay. Awesome. So, and then after you join ShopFix, you're talking about turning things around quickly. You're talking about making a pretty significant difference in revenue and things that are happening for you. And I know for you that previously, before joining ShopFix, there's pretty tough times where you guys were turning a lot of revenue, but you were losing money. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So basically what turned us on to ShopFix is Mike and I had gotten to a breaking point where we could have just closed up shop and worked for somebody else and, made more money and had less headache.
And now, quick word from our sponsors. There's that moment after every job where you hand the customer the keys and they extend their hand for that handshake for a job well done. There's just nothing better than that. But those interactions don't happen if you don't reach out first. Upswell specializes in outreach for repair shops. At Upswell, you get a dedicated marketing consultant skilled in auto repair strategies to help you identify your ideal customer and create a campaign that hits the mark with perfect targeting, eye-catching design, and a compelling message to fuel your growth and get you more of those handshakes. Upswell handles it all. They even offer a free marketing assessment and 10% off your first campaign for all new customers. Get more customer handshakes, get more customers in the door, and get yourself an upswell of new business. Visit them online at upswellmarketing.com. Again, that's upswellmarketing.com. And now back to the episode.
So we found ShopFix, and that was obviously that ultimately changed our lives when we found ShopFix. But we were moving like almost $3 million in revenue, and we were not making any money. And it's frustrating because we were both very active in the business. We were both working 16, 18-hour days. I mean, we were doing cool stuff like building SEMA trucks and making no money. I mean, it was stupid. But it's funny, because back then that was cool to us, right? That was the passion-driven thing. And what we didn't realize is that not taking care of ourselves, but only taking care of our employees and our customers was then ultimately impacting on the overall business that wasn't going to exist because of that. And so we joined ShopFix. Similarly, we took our egos, threw them in the trash, and we just sucked into it. We started changing a lot of stuff. We didn't even really have financials when we had joined. And so that was a really big thing for us. We got our financials straight. Our coach was really great. He learned about us, learned about our business, and he told us, hey man, that performance stuff, anything that you do that's sexy isn't making money. So you need to do more repair. And so then we kind of transformed our business in that moment.
Yeah. What was going on personally for you guys during that time?
So personally, it was tough. We obviously from a home perspective, I mean, my wife, she was a saint through it. She did not like it. Missed dinner all the time, missed donuts with dad, missed all that stuff. Right. And my business partner, same thing. He struggled and actually ultimately lost his marriage through it. And so it's that stuff happens, but me and him were all in and we're invested into the business. And when you get invested in the business, you kind of forget about everything else around you. But at that point in time, we were like sink or swim because it was that bad to where you're just so emotionally drained and physically drained from working all those hours. And then you're like, for what? Mm-hmm. What's the point?
Nothing to show for it.
Nothing to show for it.
Wow. Yeah. And it seems like, that breaking point a lot of times. And when you make that transition, a lot of times people burn the bridges. They're not going to go back. And it seems like all you guys have really been in that seat. And I know, Josh, for you, through your time in through the transitioning over and owning your own shop, you had somebody that was basically saying, hey, potentially you're going to fail and I'll see you when you come back. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What was going on?
So that dealer group, we opened a new store and everyone told us it'd be 18 months to get in the black. Through grit and energy, we got it into an amazing staff that we onboarded. We got it into the black in 6 months. So I go into weekly managers meeting pumped about this. Instead of being, hey, you got it into the black, it turned into all the things I did wrong. I'll also mention, to get it into the black, I paid for an oil change on my own car that nobody knows about.
It was what tipped the scales?
It was one of the things that tipped the scales. So we parted ways there, and it was a very much so, kind of connotation of chances are you won't make it because you don't stick with anything. This is a company I was with for 16 or 18 years and grew from a porter to a manager of a brand new store for them. So that's kind of how that went for us. And, for me, I had to prove them wrong. And, ShopFix, getting around like-minded people, finding KPIs is really why I was after ShopFix. I knew what KPIs were in the dealer world. I had no idea what they were in the independent world. And that's how I stumbled across Hackers, which led me to ShopFix.
Got it. Yeah, it seems like, there's so much more that drives you through than just giving up. And I think that's a story of everybody in the room. You've stuck through the hard times. You found a place and now you're digging in and moving forward, which is exciting because it's not just a professional journey. It's a personal journey like for you, and it's impacting lives around you. So getting back in, once you joined ShopFix, things are starting to turn around. Talk me through and just something you could share with us about what you learned that really made a big difference.
Probably the biggest thing I've learned, it's knowing your numbers, knowing your KPIs, what drives what, fluidity of the numbers within your P&L and how things change and what they do. I would say the biggest thing, how many of you in here have said you can't find a technician? How many of you in here that know me fairly well have ever heard me say that?
No hands.
We always figure it out. There's always a way. It may not be the way that's in front of you. You may have to go around at a different angle, but there is always a way to figure out what problem you have right in front of you. The cool thing with ShopFix is now we have 900 or 1,000 members within ShopFix. The answer you're looking for is here. And now you've just got to put in the effort to get it.
Got it. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Josh says. This network, if there's a question, the answer is here. So it's about the effort of going and seeking that answer. For me, KPIs, definitely, I knew none of that. I was just showing up every day, right? So the business side of it, ShopFix will teach you everything you need to know. But what ShopFix also teaches you is how to be a better person. I believe my business was broken because as a person, I was broken too. And for me, I think that's the greatest thing about ShopFix is the recognizing of your belief system is tarnished from when you were a child to the school teacher that told you would never amount to your own family not believing in you when you go to start a business. Yeah. So fixing the belief system changed everything in my business. So that is the greatest thing that I've taken from ShopFix.
Let me dig in a little bit there.
Yeah.
We're going to get personal here, guys. We're all
Let's
going
do
to
it.
hug after this. So what do you feel like was one of the biggest belief systems or things that you had to let go of in order to transform and be who you are today?
So for me, I'm a Christian, and my view of what God thought of me was incorrect, and I didn't learn that until I came here. So for others, they're going to come here, they're going to learn about their P&L, they're going to, and I certainly did as well, right? They're going to learn about how to implement systems in your shop. But for me, it was the reset of that, and it is life-changing.
Yeah. Well, let's double click into it.
Let's do it.
What was the thing that you had to learn how he views you that you didn't believe before?
That I was worthy. That I was worthy. That but all the goodness that is out there, I'm worthy to have it. Doesn't matter what I've done, where I've been, that I'm worthy of it. And that the moment I realized that was the day that a lot of great things started happening.
Yeah.
So
There's amazing power through that, understanding the worth you bring. Because when you start to solve that and we start to understand that, then you start to recognize it in others. You start to be able to flow through and it doesn't become a blocker with everybody around you. So that's awesome. You can unlock that.
yeah, and so it's the belief system, right? So whether you believe that or not, as far as what God thinks of you, what you believe about yourself, you're right? The world's going to agree with you. So for me, it was somebody telling me, okay, I see you've done these things, but I see this in you, right? And when somebody speaks that over you, that you have so much respect for, that's life-changing. Aaron speaking over me before in my life, Michael Rosenberger has, many people have, and those are people that I truly respect. And when those things happened, my belief system changed. So belief system is everything.
Yeah, it makes a big difference in what happens. I mean, it's fascinating to me, a lot of the mindset stuff that we talk about just as we're figuring out our path and our journey is also just the number of times that we say the things that we know are wrong to ourselves and repeat it back into ourselves versus the things we know we want to be. And the more you feed back into yourself the things that you're frustrated with versus the things you want to be, those things tend to replicate. Right? So that's great. Josh, what about you?
I think it's all the mindset stuff. It's feeling you're worthy. It's doing the right stuff for your family. It's learning that you don't have to be at the shop for 15 hours a day, that's not really what your family wants out of you. Your family wants you to be there. Obviously, they like the nice stuff in Disney World or whatever the case may be, but what's honestly more important is that you're there for them.
Yeah. Now you have a saying, I'm sure I'm going to butcher it, so you're going to correct me here. Something about impacting 100 lives a day, or did I get that right?
So our vision is to impact 100 lives on a daily basis. Those 100 lives impact 100 lives in a positive manner on a daily basis.
Okay, see, I messed you up. I'm sorry.
Those 100 lives being employees, because it's the trickle-down effect. The average family is 3 people in the U.S., so if it's 100 people that you're impacting through your business, it turns into 300 people within that family, which then trickles down to all of your customers. If you're doing that, have that many employees, look at the number of customers you're impacting in a positive manner. And the trickle-down effect is huge. Mm-hmm. So that is our vision, and that is the direction that we're going. I'm not someone that's counting shops, or I want this many, or I want that. I want to impact 100 lives in a positive manner on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of times we feel guilty about success or money and these other things, but the ramifications of what you're talking about impacting lives, conversely, if you're feeling guilt about these things, holding yourself back with those belief systems, you're also saying, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Or don't want to expand. I don't want to achieve these certain things. You're withholding the ability for you to impact those 100 lives. You're withholding the ability to have that ripple to expand, because people need you to be successful in order for you to impact everybody's lives, right? That's important.
And part of us for expanding, like we have people within our company, if we weren't expanding, they would have left us already. And they may or may not have gone to a company that's better than ours. So we're creating paths and careers for them so that they can stay with us and they can grow. Like we pour into our people big time. Like beginning of the year, we do vision boards with all of our people.
Wow.
We do monthly team targets. We do all sorts of goal setting. We do everything we can to tie their personal goals into what the business is trying to accomplish. Because if they're not happy at the end of the day, what does the number matter?
That's great. That's great. Thomas.
So I would say for us, the biggest impact ShopFix had on us would be, honestly, the networking is huge. The wealth of knowledge and wisdom that's inside one of these rooms in a conference setting is incredible. I mean, with 900 to 1,000 members now, the answer's in the room, and there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. And so what Mike and I did is we looked at our processes and procedures. We looked at our business, and we, obviously watched all the videos and just really started to zero in on that. And both of us were very active in the business. And I would say a really pinnacle moment for us was when our coach at the time was pushing us to get to try and replace ourselves and our roles in the business and remove ourselves so we could work on the business and not in the business. And once we did that, Mike made that transition first by having his toolbox towed to his house. And then naturally, I fought it a lot more than he did because I was customer facing and I love people and I love just being at the shop and I don't like being at home. And so, but ultimately, Mike was like, "Hey, man, you got to come over here. Like you can't stay in there." So I got off the counter. We replaced myself on the counter. And then that ultimately catapulted our business because then we were able to put a manager in place. And then we worked on our processes and procedures. And honestly, a lot of the stagnant growth that we had was because we were in our shop's own way and we didn't even know it. And so having peers and coaches and people that have already done that to take that step was super impactful for us.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as we're wrapping up this weekend, there's a lot of stuff that's been taught. There's a lot of things that have been happening. What's some words of encouragement you can give our listeners here to encourage them as they go back into their stores and start work on Monday?
My biggest word of encouragement would be to take action. Ultimately, if you come here and you listen and you take notes and you put your notes in your book bag and then you go home and then you just get back into the run-of-the-mill work week like you always do and not do anything about it or take any action, that's obviously not going to be as impactful as if you do take action. Now, ultimately, don't just rush home and try to implement every single thing that you've learned because your employees are going to be like, "Oh, you're never going to one of those conferences again." But yeah, just really take what you learned and prioritize it and just work on the one thing that you believe would have, the smallest knob you can turn to create the largest impact in your business.
Awesome. Josh?
I would say the same thing. Take action and implement. I'll also share with you what my coach always used to share with me. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. What you have in front of you is huge, but if you take it one bite at a time, one step or one process at a time that you're trying to implement, it doesn't take very long and you've accomplished whatever you're trying to accomplish.
Thank you.
Well, I think these gentlemen definitely summed it up there. I would say, fast forwarding from my first hackers event, I was the guy that took a book worth of notes and didn't take action. And at one point, I decided, what am I doing? Why am I coming here? Why am I missing time with my family? Why am I spending the money to come? Why am I here if I'm not going to go back and at least do one thing? So taking action 100% is key. And if you find yourself in a place where you're going back and things are not going well in the shop, things are not going well at home, my encouragement to you is to not quit, to not give up, not even for a second. That should never be a thought in your mind. There should be no retreat. You should burn the ships, right? So that would be my word of encouragement, is to never quit, never give up, and to pick one or two or three things and go try one. So
that's great. Guys, I appreciate you being up here. Appreciate you sharing your stories with us. A few words of encouragement. It's been great. Enjoyed having you. Let's give them a round of applause, everybody.